The other day, I had our motorhome parked, and I had two aluminum ladders sitting next to it, and something said, move the ladders, they'll get blown over and they'll scratch the motorhome. And I said, no, the wind always blows from that direction, and so the garage keeps from hitting it, and if the wind blowed from that direction, that big tall fence, the wind couldn't get through that. And if it blew from that direction, the ladder would blow away from the coach, and so I went on in the house. So I sat there, and the voice said, you ought to go move the ladders. And I thought, well, there isn't any wind blowing. And I went out, and both ladders had blown over, and it blew over the way I thought it would, but the end of the ladder flew up and did scratch the side of the motorhome. So now, my question to you is, did I have a pre-knowing? Was I warned, or was I creating a wind that would push over the ladder in just the way that it would manage to scratch it anyway?
It is the big question.
Yeah.
Am I receiving some precognitive information, or am I in this moment creating that which is to come?
Right.
As you received that thought and you resisted it so strongly, we would say you were receiving information of that which was probable.
Okay.
And it is also interesting to note that the message kept coming and coming and coming. Have you not all had that experience where something has flashed through your mind, but you did not follow it, and then later you discovered...
I told Esther, I'll never do that again. From now on, I may look a little weird, but I'm going to start following it every time.
We encourage you, especially when you are continually asking for greater insight. Now, let us talk about this business of precognitive versus what you are creating, because they are really not different, they are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that is coming, you are creating, because the set of thoughts that you have set forth, everything that is coming into your experience is coming by virtue of your thought, word, and action. There is not an exception to that. Sometimes you have an advanced announcement of that which is to come, that is all. In other words, your inner being is able to see sometimes that which is not obvious to you, because you cannot hold the thoughts, you cannot assess the balance of thought, you cannot see the variety of circumstances and events that have been formulated.
That I've brought together already with my mind.
That is correct, but your inner being can see at all times. And that is the value of segment intending. That is the value of recognizing that you have entered a new segment and setting forth your intent of what you're wanting to be within that segment. In other words, let us say that you had developed a habit. You haven't yet, none of you have, but we are still encouraging it. You have developed the habit of every time you recognize that it is a new segment, and when is a new segment? Anytime the intentions are slightly different from the segment before. And so you have entered a new segment, and you have developed the habit of every time it is a new segment, stopping and saying, how is it I'm wanting to feel in this segment? What am I wanting to have in this segment? And now what will I do in this segment? And if you will stop and take that little 3 or 4 second exercise, identifying what you are wanting, then you will receive your guidance even more clearly. Then you would recognize that that was guidance in response to a question, not just something that you were imagining.
Okay, something else in the same day. We went to get the mail, and Esther took my knife, and as I was driving, she opened an envelope, and she said, oh, I think that's from so-and-so because he always has the wrong zip code. And then when she opened it, I said, oh, that's a chain letter. Now, I didn't see it. She hadn't opened the letter. She hadn't read the letter. And then when she said, it's a chain letter, and I said, how did I know that? Would you explain? I don't understand how I knew that.
Esther was aware of it as she held it in her hand. In other words, it was not the normal thing that she would receive from that one. It was printed in, you know how the chain letter looks. It has been printed so many times you can barely read it, that sort of thing. And so Esther's assessment, and you simply received her
picked it out of her mind. And the third thing, that same day, I've been saying we've kind of got caught up with all the business that's come from a radio show we did in Los Angeles a while back, and we're just kind of catching our breath from that. And I told Esther just days ago, I said, what I really want right now is something from Boston. And I said, maybe we should send some flyers out or something. And the phone rang, and Esther picked up the phone and said, this is John O'Neill. I do the Larry Glick show in Boston. Would you be willing to do? So how does all that Now, one's like a pre-knowing. I felt like I had a pre-knowing, but the other is I see the things that I've pre-wanted occurring.
They are one and the same. As you are
the same
giving
pattern.
thought, what is happening is you are setting forth your thought, therefore you are beginning the attraction, and as it becomes nearer to you, near enough that it will be within your experience momentarily, very often you receive the precognition about it.
And so that's the reason I was thinking of Boston, because it was moving in
It was
closer.
on its way to you. Because Boston was thinking about you.
Good.
They had begun making the contact.
Good.
They had made the decision, that sort of thing. Do not complicate
So-
this. Do not try so hard to figure out what is coming first, for all of it is happening at the same time. As you
Good.
are offering your thought, you are sending out your influence. Your influence by law of attraction is bringing it to you. It is just that most of you live by the attitude, I'll believe it when I see it. And what we are wanting you to do is recognize, as the new book says in its title, that you will see it when you believe it. Now what is happening is all of these things that you have launched are on their way to you if you will just relax and get out of the way. You see.
Then would you say that all forms of precognition or pre-knowing or knowing ahead of time what's about to happen are really a result of an understanding of what has been created already?
Now think about what you're saying.
Okay.
How could it be any other way? If everything that is coming to you, you have created, then is not all precognition awareness of it?
Well, I used to think, before I met you, I thought all of life was a dream, and all this was happening just ahead of time, and I was just now, and so I was remembering what had already
But that
happened.
is not the way it is.
ahead
Now
of-
what do you think?
Well, I have to go along with your story.
What? The reason that we're having fun with
No,
you
I'm
is
okay.
because are you understanding that you are the creator of your experience? More and more you are getting to know it in every sense. And so as you accept that, as you do,
I do.
then would not any previous awareness of that which is to come be just what you said?
Yeah.
And so what if you received something precognitive that you did not want to live? Are you stuck with it? Do you have to live it out? Or can you in that moment say, no, I will change the balance of my thought, therefore I will change the balance of my experience? The latter will not scrape the paint from my motorhome,
Right.
or I will not slice the end from my finger.
Good.
The
Thank you.
examples are endless, are they not?
Exactly.
As a little bit of an example of what Jerry said, is about a month and a half ago, as my mate and I were walking on our usual daily walk, I walked by this nursing home and looked up at the sign every day, and it was though there was something there for me, but I just went on, and so now it's come to the time where I had set forth my intentions to find a job that would be very little pressure, but would give me enough money for what I needed and would not tie me down. And I went to several beauty shops because I decided I was going back to my hairdressing part-time. Went to several beauty shops, and they all wanted more money than I felt like was feasible a week for chair rentals. And since I didn't know anyone in the area where I was, I had no clientele. So I had completely disposed of that. At the end of May, I just said, I'm not going to do that. And so then I decided, well, I'd go back to estimating in the body shop again. But I couldn't find a job. Well, on Friday, I went into this beauty shop to visit with this lady, and she told me that there was a position open in the nursing home for a hairdresser that would go in once a week. And all the clients in the nursing home are there, and the equipment is there. I don't even have to sweep the floor. I don't have to dump the trash. The maintenance man in the hospital does that. And I'm not even tied down to it because the lady that's doing it said she'd do it when I wanted to go somewhere. And I was getting these premonitions from this nursing home every day when I walked by there. It just sort of was coming to me. There's a job there. There's a job there. That I just blew it off.
You are receiving guidance from your inner being, all of you, in the form of emotion or even clear. It depends upon your willingness to hear. What are you what is the experience that you've gained from that? Does it make you want to act sooner?
Yeah, it does. And each time that these things happen, I become more and more aware of it.
That you have this partner of co-creation. We are not really wanting to prod you into sooner action, because really, if you will just relax and trust, believe, not resist, what happens is the circumstances and events will become obvious enough that you cannot avoid it. Most of your creations have many, many paths toward the fruition that you seek. And the path that you will receive will be the one through least resistance. The reason that we ask the question is because if you could be more alert, more aware, if you will come to trust these feelings, or even if you would strike a bargain with your inner being and say, offer me a little greater jolt when something more significant is there, for I am open and wanting of this, or even as you're writing your 15-minute process every day, or even as you're segment intending. Now that's the point that we're really wanting to hammer home. The more clear you are about what you're wanting, then the more obvious those sorts of things will be. If you're sort of just drifting along, liking what is but not making any real decisions about where you're wanting to go, then you're not as keenly aware of the guidance that can give you a more direct route to what you're wanting. And so sometimes those routes, we listen to some of you as you explain how you came to know one another or how a good thing happened, and it is a very long route of the way it got there, when there could have been a much shorter, quicker, more satisfying route. But in order to get those sorts of things happening in your experience, you have to do more defining, more asking, more looking, more expecting, and then things really begin to pop. Some areas of your life, you accept the faster things faster. It is what we talked about earlier. Other areas of your life, by expectation, you just expect those things to take a longer time.